ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะนักลงทุนทุกท่านนะคะวันนี้บริษัทหาดทิพย์จำกัดมหาชนค่ะก็มีความยินดีต้อนรับนักลงทุนทุกท่านเข้าร่วมงาน Opportunity Day ของบริษัทของเรานะคะซึ่งเราจะมาพูดคุยกันในเรื่องของผลประกอบการดำเนินงานของบริษัทในไตรมาส2แล้วก็ครึ่งปีแรกของปี 2567 ค่ะซึ่งในครั้งนี้เราได้ผู้บริหารคือคุณอมริต คุมาเชษฐาค่ะประธานเจ้าหน้าที่ฝ่ายการเงินนะคะมาเพื่อที่จะอธิบายในเรื่องผลการดำเนินงานแล้วก็ในช่วงท้ายก็จะเป็นตอบคำถาม Q&A แล้วก็เอาลุกของที่เหลือในปีนี้กันค่ะเชิญค่ะคุณอมริตค่ะ
Thank you. Sawadika, good afternoon. Thank you for joining our Opportunity Day session this afternoon. We are pleased to share our Q2 and first half performance results and also give you some updates in our full year outlook for 2024. So before we go into the results of Hard Tip company, let's look at how the industry was performing for south of Thailand. So for the first half, the total NARTD, which is non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverage categories in total, grew by around 13% for south of Thailand compared to 8.5% for total Thailand. That means that in southern region, which is our Hard Tip territories, the industry was performing comparatively better. Within that, total NARTD growth of 13%, sparkling was growing quite well at around 12%. Then also packaged water and juice categories continue to grow at around 14.5 and 20.3% respectively. That means that all the key categories within NARTD continue to have a solid growth in the first half of 2024. On the right, when we look at our share position of Hard Tip company as a whole in NARTD, we were able to grow our share to 25.4% points at end of the first half of 2024 compared to around 24.9% at end of last year. And within the total share position, our sparkling share continues to remain at a good level, which was around 78.6%. And we are continually growing our share position in water. 3-4 years ago, that our share in water was around 4%. Now, gradually, we are able to grow that to almost 8% during the first half of this year. So that's the overall industry performance and our performance of this year. When we look at our Q2 key results, so overall, we had a pretty good quarter with both top line and bottom line growing in line with expectations. Total volume that we sold during the Q2 was around 20.3 million unit cases, which was 14% growth versus prior year, same period. Within that, our domestic sales in our territories, which is 14 provinces in south, was 18.7 million unit cases. And made-to-order sales, which is for Thai Tip, our bottling colleague in the north of Thailand, was 1.6 million cases. As I mentioned earlier, our share position continues to remain strong with total NARTD share for Q2 at 25.6% and sparkling 78.1%. Water was reaching almost 8% during the Q2 of this year. Some of the other operating performance indicators, zero sugar category, which is our continuing focus in south of Thailand, was growing almost 29% in terms of the volumes. And that makes the contribution of zero sugar 4.4%, suggesting that we still have rooms to continue growing this category to the next level. Within the channels, our main channels, CBS did grow very strongly, 15%, and Horeca, which is the hotel, restaurant, and cafe, was growing at a higher rate of 23% as we get a positive benefit from increasing number of tourists. The number of coolers in the market at end of Q2 was 16,900, which is a 5% growth year to date, meaning almost around 900 coolers were placed in the market during the first half. It's a bit slower than what we had planned, and we plan to accelerate the cooler placements in the market in Q3 and Q4. In terms of the net operating results, we delivered a revenue growth of 12%. GP margin was at 42% of the revenues. Profit was growing around 6% to 159.1 million cases. Net profit margin was slightly lower versus last year to 7.2 as we were managing some of the headwinds and the COGS increases. So overall, we had a pretty decent quarter in line with our expectations, in some of the parameters slightly ahead of our expectations. So when we look at that on a first half basis, we had quite a strong growth in our volume performance, growing 8.8% versus prior year first half. Within that, domestic revenue sales was 36.6 million cases, and made to order to Thailand tip was a decent level of 2.8 million cases. Share numbers I already shared earlier. Our NARTD was 25.4%, and sparkling within that was 78.6% leadership. So we have a strong position in both NARTD and sparkling categories. Water making good growth, still opportunities for us to increase their share position. With this 8% share position, we are number 4, number 5. So we aim to continue growing this business for under the brand of Namtip for next years to come. Similar to the Q2 results on the zero categories, it was growing for the first half 30%, the mix reaching 4.8%. CVS and the HoReCa growth were leading our growth for the first half, as same as the Q2 results. And then the utilization rate of our plant, excluding the RGB, was around 74%. So it's growing quite well with our growth in our volume. Net result for the first half, revenue growth was around 8%. Net profit was slightly down versus PY as we were managing, we were going through some COGS challenges, mainly in the area of sugar and the empty cans during the first half. Net profit margin was around 8% for the first half. So some of the details in our financials, I will probably more focus on the first half results and give you some details of some of the P&L line items. With domestic sales volume within the total growth of 9%, our domestic sales volume for the 14 provinces was growing 6%, and made to order sales to Thailand tip was very strong for the first half. We expect that to slow down in the second half of this year, as this really depends on the production capacity of Thailand tip and their sales volume. So we basically make this finished product based on their demands, which typically comes around 1 month to 1.5 months in advance. So with that volume growth, our total revenue grew by 8%. As you can see on the explanation, important to note that our domestic revenue growth was 7% on back of volume 6%. That means we had a price mix benefit of 1% points versus the volume, and we expect that to accelerate in the second half as we have implemented a series of price adjustments. First one was in May in some single serve package, and the last one has been implemented in August, mainly for the large pack formats, meaning we call the multi-serve pack. So with that price increase that we have already implemented, we should be expecting a slightly higher pack mix benefit in Q3 and Q4, and that we will see during 2024. Our gross profit growth for the first half was 4% below the revenue or the volume growth, mostly impacted by the raw material price increase. Sugar increase was around almost 20% since November of last year. and the empty can also price increased during the first half. Now we expect these commodity prices to remain more stable in the second half of this year. With that and the price increase that we have implemented, we do expect improving gross margin trends in the next few quarters. Our SG&A expense was 6% growth below the revenue and the volume growth, and they were mainly in the areas of increasing investment in the sales and promotions, especially in the channels that are growing strongly in CVS and HoReCa. We are investing there sometimes ahead of the curve, so that we will see the benefit of those investments in next quarters to come. At the same time, the transportation cost was higher, mainly driven by the diesel cost and some employee expenses to comply with the minimum wage and other annual increase that is in the market practice. With that, our EBITDA was growing 4%. Interest expense was 4 million higher than last year, mainly to serve some of the long-term financing that we have to pay for the PET project that was installed last year. Tax expense was also slightly higher versus last year, as we are now in the normalized corporate tax rates. We did have some special incentive from BOI, and that did expire in September last year. So we are now in more normalized corporate tax rates. With that, our net profit for the first half was 2% down. Gross margin was also impacted. Most of the margins there were impacted, mainly because of the cost pressure that we were facing in the first half, and those trends should improve in the second half of this year. So in summary, we had a pretty decent quarter two, and because of the cost impacts, our net profit was slightly down in the first half of the year. Let's look at some of the volume contributor in the revenue contributions. This volume growth for the first half was, of course, driven by key factors, including growth in the tourism. You will see a bit more details on how the tourism growth was for the first few months of this year. And within that, our volumes in some key channels, HoReCa was growing 27%, modern trade was growing 14%. Traditional trade, which is almost 1/3 of our business, was also growing at a healthy rate of 6% points. So overall, on the left bottom, you can see our revenue performance for the past few quarters. For the second quarter of this year, year-on-year, the revenue was growing 11.8%, and quarter-on-quarter was also an upward trend of 4.2%. Year-on-year, the first half, the revenue was growing 8%, as you saw in the previous numbers. In terms of the revenue contribution by brand and pack, no significant change. Coca-Cola brand continues to be the leading contributor for our revenue generation at around 68%, followed by Fanta 19%, and then Sprite 6%. Namdeep is still a smaller contribution for the revenue, and this is an area that will help us to grow our revenue further in the next few quarters. In terms of the revenue by package, no significant change to report. PET continues to be the highest volume contributor in terms of packs, 78%, followed by cans, growing quite well this year with the tourism inflow and so on. RGB and non-RGB was 3%, and this is one area where we are increasing our investment this year. That should help us to grow RGB or the glass business in totality at a higher rate in the next few years. Some of the financial highlights, gross profit, you already saw. We had a growth of 4.3% gross profit for the first half, reaching 1,792,000,000 baht. At the below, you can see the margin performance for the past few years and the recent quarters. The first half was 41.2%, quarter two was 42%. So this trend should be an improving trend for the next few quarters as we get a benefit of the price increases implemented, as I said. SG&A expense for the first half was at 31.5% of the revenue compared to 32% for the first half of last year, and it was growing 6.2%. Net profit margin for the first half was 8% of the revenue, lower than last year. Again, that was mainly because of the COGS pressure that we were facing in the first half of this year. In terms of the balance sheet highlights, no major change. Some of the increases in the total asset position is coming up from the non-current asset of the production plant and equipment as we continue some of the key investments in our plant operations, including upgrading of the warehouse and some other upgrade of our infrastructure there. So that was the main reason why our asset base was increasing in the first half. Cash flow position continues to be at a decent level. We generated 558 million baht free cash from operations during the first half, of which we invested 313 in the financing activities and investing activities. That was mainly in the plant operations and so on. And then the financing activity was 302. That included the final dividend payment of 225 million baht in May for the 2023 final results. CapEx was mainly in the area of plant and equipment. Some of the other financial ratios to highlight: our return on asset and return on equity was for the quarter two was at end of quarter two was 14.8% on return on equity and 11.2% on return on assets. More or less similar to quarter two of last year, some small decline because of the profit being slightly lower compared to the other asset and equity. So, but in a decent level, debt to equity ratio and interest-bearing debt similar to 2023 levels of 0.67 on the debt to equity and 0.17 on the interest-bearing debt. Activity ratios continuing improvements with cash cycle days reduced to 20.3. Much better than our normal target, which is around 24 to 25 days. And during this quarter, our inventory level was a bit lower at 26.6. Collection period also improved with a reduction in past due accounts. That was 24.5. And collection period was stable at around 30.8. So good improvement. Interest coverage at a good level of around 49 times. So happy to also share that our board has approved the interim dividend from the first half result, which will be 0.48 baht per share based on the record date of 5th September to be paid on 20 September 2024. This is pretty similar to the dividend we paid last year. You can see some of the marketing activities mainly focused towards the collaboration with the food marks, meaning, a lot of food channels we are focusing on to do a lot of combo promotions and things like that. You can also see some of the new products and activation in Zero Sugar, in Mandarin Yuzu, some of the K-pops and some, the marketing activations that we had for the first half of the year. Q3, you have already probably seen this, new, let's say this marketing campaign. Same product, Coca-Cola Zero with the marbles. In terms of the growth vision, no significant change versus what we have shown in the past few presentations. Our long-term goal continues to be around 15 billion baht of revenue delivery in the next 8 to 9 years, which will be in 2032. That requires a CAGR growth of 8 to 9%. Within that, we expect the price mix benefit to play a significant role to deliver price mix benefit of 1.5 to 2%, meaning that our volume would be around 6 to 7% range, and the rest would be delivered through a revenue growth management, including price adjustments, improve package mix of immediate consumptions versus future consumption packs, and management of the discounts and things like that. So no significant change. With this delivery, we expect our NARTD value share to improve to 30% level in the next 3-4 years, and then 8-9 years to around 35%. And we will be able to continue to maintain a strong leadership in sparkling beverage with over 80% market share. Also, as I mentioned, continuing opportunities for us to increase our volume in water segments, and also some of the new categories that we'll be working with Coca-Cola company to launch in the marketplace. Some of the data in the tourism sectors, overall foreign tourist arrival was around 20 million during the first 7 months of this year, generating quite a good revenue of 970 billion for the country. Within that tourist arrivals, China was leading with 4.1, followed by Malaysia, then India, South Korea, and Russia. I think Thailand is getting a lot of new tourists from India and Malaysia this year. So that trend is expected to continue. With that, total 2024 tourist arrival is expected to be 36 million people compared to 28 million last year, so almost over 20% increase. In 2025, the tourist arrival is expected to be at the same level at pre-COVID, around 39 to 40 million tourist arrival, which is around 10% growth. And with that, we expect our territories to get more, let's say, favorable benefits compared to the rest of the countries, including, Phuket, Krabi, Phang Nga, Samui, and some of the news we have seen is that in Phuket there will be continuing investments, a lot of renovations on the airport to cater for an increasing number of tourists, and also the Krabi, a lot of new flights being added. At the same time, also the Samui airport is expected to be renovated in the next few years, increasing the capacity to 2 million. So all these will be a positive factors for our business in the south of Thailand. So with that, our 2024 forecast, some of the key focus areas continues to remain intact. And with that, as you can see on the slide, we expect the volume growth to be in the range of 4 to 6% for the full year, and we are well on track to be in that range based on the first half results. We have revised upwards the revenue growth forecast from previously 6 to 8% range to 7 to 9%. This is taking into account of the first half result and also the price implementation. Gross profit and the overall margin that continues to be our focus. Gross profit we expect to deliver over 40% on a mid to long term basis. On the left, you can see some of the focus areas, the contribution of the IC immediate consumption pack to be higher than the future consumption pack. That will help us in our revenue and also profit generation. Zero sugar growth, 43% is the full year target. And on the middle, you can see some of the initiatives, including investments in our new glass lines that will be operational around November this year. That will help us to get into a lot of the new product categories in glass, returnable glass and non-returnable glass format. Cooler, as I was saying, our full year target is around 20% growth in the cooler population, 20 to 25. That means around 3,000 coolers versus last position at end of 2023. That means in the second half, we plan to inject roughly 2,000 coolers in the marketplace. Some of the highlights that we have shared on the glass business investment is a strategic investment. Total is around 800 million baht. We already have the line arriving in our Surat Thani plant in the process of commissioning now with commercial production expected to be around November of this year. This is a very high-speed line, 800 bottles per minute. It will have a capability to allow us to produce both returnable glass and also non-returnable one-way glass in different categories, including sparkling, can be the water, can be soda water. Also, we'll be able to produce some of the juice products. So it is a very flexible and a brand new line. So with that, we expect to be able to increase the contribution of the glass packaging from currently around 3% to 8 to 10% in the next few years. That will also, in addition to allowing us to go into different categories, it will also help us to address some of our sustainability agenda, meaning that the glass packages will be multiple use. So in terms of the carbon footprint and the recycling, it will be more environmental friendly.
Yeah, so I think that's it.
Thank you. That's all we have to share with you. Happy to get the questions or comments or feedback from all of you. Thank you.
โอเคค่ะคำถามแรกนะคะ made to order sale volume คือผลิตให้ไทยน้ำทิพย์ใช่ไหมครับเรามีตัวที่เขาผลิตไม่ได้หรอครับ For the made to order sale volume is that we production for Thai Nam Tip. Is there any particular that they cannot produce by themselves, Thai Nam Tip?
I mean, this is based on their requirements. They have a capacity to produce all the pack sizes that they need. However, depending on the time of the year and the production capacity and the demands, sometimes they need us to help them. So we basically take their input or request, as I was saying, between 6 to 8 weeks in advance and supply to them based on the requirements. I mean, first half, because of the hotter weather and also increasing sales that they had, we were supplying mainly the large format packs to them. So this was the main driver of the growth for the first half. As I was saying, with the lower season approaching and the sales trend comparatively will be a bit lower in Q3 compared to Q2. So we expect that to be much lower in the rest of the year. Again, our focus is more in our territories. Anything that we are able to supply to Thai Nam Tip will give us some overhead recovery and some margins, but that's not our main source of focus.
Okay.
Thank you.
คำถามต่อไปนะคะผลประโยชน์ระยะยาวอื่นในส่วนค่าตอบแทนผู้บริหารคืออะไรครับอันนี้น่าจะเป็น financial footnote ข้อ2นะคะถ้าเข้าใจไม่ผิดค่ะFor the financial footnote number 2, there's an other long-term employee benefit is 17.5.
Okay.
Yes. What is that about?
Sure. I mean that our company's board, on the recommendation of the compensation and the remuneration committee, reviews the overall compensation package for all our employees on an annual basis. So when it comes to the long-term benefit, this relates to long-term incentive plans approved by the board of the directors for the senior people, our management team in our team.
ค่ะข้อต่อไปนะคะจำนวนคูลเลอร์ที่เพิ่มขึ้นช้าลงเพราะใกล้จะถึงเป้าหมายแล้วเหรอครับnumber of cooler the growth of number of cooler is lower this is because we almost reached the target for this year
Not yet. As I was saying, we have been a bit slower in the first half in terms of cooler placement. During the cooler placement process, we have a certain protocols to follow, including the review of the viability of the new coolers in the outlets. We go through a selection process. So we still have a lot of opportunities to continue placing coolers. Our cooler population is comparatively lower at around only 17,000 of the total 50,000 outlets having Coca-Cola coolers. The rest, they have their own coolers. So this compares to almost 50% cooler penetration in some of the comparable markets, including Thailand. So from that, we see a continuing opportunity to improve the number of coolers in the marketplace, which will hopefully give us increased revenue trends.
RGB ลายใหม่ต่างจากลายเก่าอย่างไรครับ What is the difference between the old RGB that we used to have and compare with the new one we're gonna have soon?
Yes, the old line was very, very old. It is over 40 years with a lot of limitations on what we can produce in terms of pack sizes. The maintenance cost was very high, has been very high. But still using the line in RDI. So the new line is a brand new line. It is a very high speed line with lots of flexibility. The total capacity, installed capacity of this line would be 800 bottles per minute compared to maybe around 150 or 200 bottles rated capacity in our existing lines. So with these new lines, we will be able to have a lot of flexibility to produce not only sparkling beverages in both returnable and non-returnable glass format, but also water. We could do another water in the glass bottles, both returnable, non-returnable, depending on how we want to take this forward. And also we'll be able to produce some other categories, including, juice and so on. So with this line, we expect to be able to also change our glass packages as we are finalizing the relaunch plan of this business in Q4. We'll be able to do a new glass format. So we are basically modernizing our glass business in south of Thailand. For reference, in Thailand, they also revamped their glass business in the past 3-4 years with new package formats and so on. It's doing quite well, and for them, it has been for the past many years almost 20% of the total business in the central area being from the glass business. Ours is 3%. So there is opportunity for us to expand this business in time to come. Thank you.
Related question. For RGB investment, what is your expected ROE?
Yeah, this is a long-term investments for the glass business operations. With what we are planning, 10% makes contribution by 2029. Our projected ROE or return on investments or payback period is between 6 to 8 years. So, and ROE is expected to be, over 15%. So, it is comparatively, ROE is a bit lower than the PET. As I was saying, the investment in the RGB business or the glass business is manifold. It is also, of course, it is to grow our business. At the same time, it will help us to address some of our agenda on the sustainability aspect to reduce the reliance on the PET package to a large extent. So we'll be able to return this glass bottle many times. So you can reuse these glasses. So it will help us to lower our cost from that perspective as well.
ค่ะ so this is our last question ค่ะค่าตอบแทนผู้บริหารเพิ่มจาก91 ล้านเป็น128 ล้านในครึ่งปีแรกเป็นเพราะอะไรและในอนาคตจะเพิ่มขึ้นอีกไหม for the key management personnel cost expense this year for the first half is 128 million while last year was like 91 million what is the reason behind the growth and also will it be increased more for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean this compensation is in line with the approved again the total compensation package of our key management personnel. It really depends on the number of people as well. As we upgrade our capability, we have a number of promotions to the management level. So it's not, just the salary or the benefit increase for the same people that were there in 2023. So it is also with the new organization structure. We have increased in the number of people to deliver the growth that is required. So it's a combination of higher number of people and also on an annual basis, the compensation and remuneration committee does review the market benchmark of some of the key compensation aspects and recommends the required adjustments to the board for the final approval. So this is we don't look at just the compensation in isolation. The main factor is whether we have sufficient structure to deliver the growth agenda that we have in the company and how we manage our total SG&A expense in totality.
So that's all for the questions.
Okay, thank you all for your attendance today. It is always a pleasure to be attending this session. So we look forward to the next session in time to come. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you.